Bam. Yeah, man. How you feeling, sir? How's the body holding up?
Really well, really well. Just finished my last SBD session for this block, and I ended up with my best total to this date. Obviously training, but so yeah.
Pacing well, my friend.
Yeah, we're pacing well. Yeah.
Have you posted that yet?
No, I think I'll post tomorrow.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I noticed you hadn't posted it yet, kind love. I noticed it, kind love. And our boy Rory is stuck in purgatory.
Yeah, I'm not even allowed outside at the moment. So
You're not even allowed to look outside, dude.
this is where I am for the next 5 days.
That's right. What do you have weights there, Rory?
I've got jack shit.
Jack shit.
Damn,
I have enough
that's
room
rough.
to do press ups on the floor.
Oh wow. Do you guys call them press ups in New Zealand? We call them push ups, bro.
Push ups, whatever.
This is a cultural clash right now. We're already off on the wrong foot. We don't get each other.
We're
There's
never
a
going to be
cultural.
able to resolve this.
That's right. There's a cultural divide between us. I'm afraid we won't be able to bridge. Yeah, you guys were. It's interesting. You guys were knee deep into the New Zealand Nationals, and then like halfway through, you got the plug pulled on. You're like, well, I guess we're stopping, like right now.
Yeah, so Nationals was a 5-day event starting earlier this week. I was supposed to be on a plane on my way back as we're recording this. And so we got into the first day. So the first day was all the masters lifters. We finished all of the women were in the morning session. We finished that session. It was going great. We were like, this is going to be awesome. Running weigh-ins, and I get this text message being like, case found in Auckland, going to be an announcement tonight. And I was like, oh fuck. Okay, well, guess started the afternoon session, like men squatted, people are starting to be like, oh, there's a COVID case. Of course, we haven't had anything for 6 months at this point. There's a COVID case in Auckland. Like, well, what's going to happen? And we're like, on the mic, just we'll make an announcement when we know what's going on. Like, nothing's confirmed yet. 6 o'clock rolls around, and we get this announcement from the Prime Minister and the Director of Health, or whatever his name is. And they're like, whole country going to level 4 lockdown for 7 days. And so level 4 lockdown is only place you can go is the supermarket and the pharmacy. There's no delivery. There's no, non-essential stuff doesn't ship. You can't go to work. You can go for like walks in your local neighborhood, but that's it. And only wearing a mask. And so cancel Nationals. Fly back, mechanical problems with a lot of people's flights. We were in Invercargill, which is like the very, very southern tip of New Zealand. And so everyone had to, fly back to their various places around the country. A whole bunch of people got stuck in the airport because, one of the planes broke down. Airports are real fucking strange at level 4 because you can't be within 2 meters of anyone else. So instead of having couches and little blocks of chairs, they have individual chairs, with these massive gaps between them, just lined up across the the front of the windows and stuff. Of course, there's no food, there's no drinks. You can't go to the cafe, you can't get something from the vending machine. So it was a really long trip back to Auckland. And then my flatmate found out she's a close contact of one of the COVID cases here in Auckland.
Oh, wow.
So now my whole flat is not even allowed to go outside for exercise. We're confined to the house until she returns to negative COVID tests.
This is what I pictured when you were at Nationals and the news came out that there was a COVID test, and it was like, oh, there's a COVID. You hear someone's got COVID. And you're like on the commentary, you're like, all right, now everybody calm down. We're going to proceed until we find out anything new. Nationals continues on. We're like fucking halfway through deadlifts or second attempts, and Rory comes on there and goes, all right, everybody, head to the exits. Immediately shut the lights off. Someone's literally deadlift in hand. Shut the goddamn lights off. And just shut it down. Shut it. Stay calm. But he's yelling.
That's what it was like, man. That's what it was like. So we actually got 6 hours warning. So we came out with the microphone between bench and deadlifts. And we were like, okay, so we've got 6 hours till we go into lockdown. We're going to finish this session because, this is only going to take another hour to wrap up. Everyone just calm down. If you're already in the room, you can stay in the room, but we're not taking any new people to come in. If you're here, you can stay, but
And you
no one
had a
else
gun in
could
hand
join
when you
in.
were saying this, so that's the difference. You had a gun, a
Oh
pistol.
yeah, and I already had like a scarf pulled up over my face, and I'm like,
and a
everybody
pistol in
stay
hand when you're
calm, like,
announcing.
this is a powerlifting meet.
That's how you make the enough. Everyone, stay calm. I have 6 bullets in this, and I'm going to start firing. Stay calm, though. Okay.
If you want to be one of the 6,
If you want to be one, if you want to be a hero, this is the hill you die on. Because you go, we're going to finish the deadlift session. We're going to warm up for the next, and we'll see how it goes. Really,
the one day that we did get through was really good. We got through all of the masters lifters. There was some great lifting. The meet was looking really slick. So yeah, it was going really well. And it's looking like it's going to be rescheduled to later in the year. And hopefully we just don't have another flare up before then.
Yeah, kind of is what it is. But it's so crazy to see your story. And you were like, everything's just rocking and rolling great. You're in your suit and the whole nine's going great. And then you're like, huh. The look on your face is like, that was the prime minister. And then you're like, well, catching the flight home. That's that.
So
yeah, it's like,
did they do that because there was like one case of COVID or like a lot of them?
let me explain. So there was only one case of COVID at the time that the lockdown was announced. But what people seem to have still not fucking gathered at this point is how exponential curves work. So like there was one case when it was announced. There was 7 by midnight when the actual lockdown started. There was 22 by 9 a.m. the next day. You know, like,
dude,
like this is how exponential curves work. So yeah, there was one, but the dude had been walking around downtown Auckland for 5 days, contagious before he got tested, right? And so by the time we knew that he was positive, he'd probably already infected over 100 people who have then probably infected another 100 people each.
Who is this social asshole though? Hey, what's going on here? Why couldn't it happen to some Dungeons and Dragons dude who wants to stay?
Hey, I'm a Dungeons and Dragons dude. Chill out. But yeah, like he went to like this famous sports bar in the Coromandel Peninsula. So he drove 3 hours to a sports bar that probably had 400 people in it.
Oh,
he
wow.
He went to
meet up with somebody,
and restaurants, and lived in a house with 4 other people.
Perfect.
So yeah, it is what it is, right? And so now we've got this list of locations of interest, and if you've been in one of the locations of interest, you have to get tested, and you're not allowed outside till you've returned a positive test. And there's like 60 new locations of interest added every day. Like, there's a couple of them that are like 400 meters up the road from my house, and I'm like, oh god, I think I walked past there like around that time. And yeah.
Is it New Zealand's not it's an island, it's not huge. Is it pretty condensed population?
So New Zealand is a really long archipelago, and so it's made up of like over 400 islands and sort of a chain. But there's sort of like 3 main islands, and most of New Zealand is not very densely populated. But Auckland City, which is where I live, there's 1.5 million people in like a relatively small area. Like if you transplanted Auckland City into North America, it would be like the 5th or 6th biggest city in North America. So on the whole, like there's big areas that are just like sheep and like giant eagles or something. But Auckland City and Wellington City in particular are very, very densely populated. Yeah.
New Zealand's fascinating, huh, Pana?
Yeah, I would really like to go there, but I'm afraid of snakes and
dragons.
And spiders.
We don't have snakes or spiders. I think you're thinking of Australia, man.
No, but they have dragons, dude. I'm sure they do.
If you compare the spiders that you guys have to the spiders that I have in Paris, it's like completely different story, So
they have spiders. Rory's lying. They also have dragons. They have dragons and dwarfs with swords that fight them, that fight the dragons. It's crazy.
It's the cave trolls you need to watch out for, man.
It's the cave troll. Don't get me started on the cave trolls, dude. It's a wild place over there. But
it's crazy. It's great to see the differences in like how the situation is handled, because here in France we still have COVID cases, but we're like far away from lockdown, at least for now. Let's hope I don't butcher everything, but we're far away from lockdown for now. And although we have like the sanitary pass, which is like basically you have to have a proof that you're either vaccinated or you have to have a less than 3 days negative COVID test, where like you can't go into bars, you can't go into restaurants, you can go like even pick up your food. Normally you can't. But besides that, like in the street, like nobody wears masks anymore.
But if everyone's vaxxed and then also tested, you're getting like, it's just different ways of approaching it, right?
Yeah.
I was doing, it's a little bit different here. We're on I do like a little bit of acting, but nothing big, right? Just like on the side for fun more. And I was on
Tell
a
us about
show.
your movie, Ryan.
What's that?
Tell us about that movie you showed me,
All
Ryan.
right. See, this is my man. He feeds me these lines. You see, that's Rory. Rory knows how to set me up, lobs it down the middle, and I fucking hit it out the park. But before I'm allowed, before anyone's allowed on set, we have to do like COVID tests and whatnot. Like, so some fields of work and stuff there is. I think that might be like union or whatever, but I don't know. I'm not entirely sure how it works. It kind of changes from place to place, and then province to province, region to region too. And that's just in one nation. But yeah, man, it is what it is. So your body's been feeling good, man, because you were dealing with sometimes here and there some injuries. Was it the lower back?
Yeah. It was like I don't know. I don't know if that's the same word in English, but it's called lumbago.
Lumbar, yeah.
Lumbar spine, yeah.
Yeah, it's like a huge, massive like spasm in your low back, and then you're blocked for like 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
And I did some work on my technique and programming strategies, and now I'm like 100%. Like today, I deadlifted like 290 kilos.
Holy shit!
And I was like, and I doubled 282.5 on Tuesday, I think.
I reposted that one.
No, I didn't post it.
No, I reposted 280.
280, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so, really, I'm feeling great. I'm really feeling awesome lately, physically and mentally also, I think. So yeah, body is 100%.
We talked a little bit in the DMs and how right now I'm doing the Taylor Atwood program, and it's fucking insane. Like it's and one of the biggest things I've learned is survival. It come down to like so I know exactly what you mean when you start approaching things differently. Like, all right, I'm going to shoot for this on the top set, but I need to you start really paying attention to your body. Once you have little tweaks, only through like experience, you start realizing like this is the signs. Last time when I started going down possible injury, this is what started feeling like, how before it happens, before you get injured, you don't know if you're just like need to gut it out and push through it, or if you're like actually getting close to getting injured until it already happens. Cause if you got heart and determination like you do, you can gut through almost anything. Like you're gonna, like, if you like, I'm gonna fucking do this, you're gonna do this. And only after you tip over, looking back, you could be like, okay, now I know that was an appropriate feeling. Like that was on my way to injury. Now I need to hold it back. And for some people that don't push themselves like that, it sounds crazy, but I know what you mean, where you're like, now I know.
Yeah. And also I think there's a really cool segue here because I want to throw that in because, a lot of people only see what Taylor posts on Insta, and Taylor posts, like, people post whatever they want on Instagram. And I think people have to realize that maybe you failed the top set, that you didn't post and you just posted what you wanted to post, and people see Taylor Atwood like, quote unquote, easy on his sets, on his work, on his squat, bench, deadlift, whatever. And they assume that he trains light and that his training is easy. And so you should train easy in order to be as strong as Taylor is. And now that you are doing the Taylor Atwood program, and we have two lifters in France that also joined TSG, and I also talked with them, and they told me like, dude, it's brutal. Like, I never trained that hard in my life. And it's not only about hitting heavy singles, it's like a certain amount of work you do on a weekly basis. And so now you can say, for people being like, hey man, Taylor Atwood, always RP6, never above. Now you can tell them, my guys, I think it's not the reality here,
Dude, I look at, he slid in my DMs a couple of times leading into nationals. And I had an idea of what he was going to do at nationals. You never know until the day of, but he hit deadlifts and straight up passed out and fell into the squat racks. He had moments of like a hamstring pull on one of his deads because it was like, yeah, like you work, man. Like some of them are smooth. Some days are not smooth. Like it's, to your point, yeah, man, you don't post everything, no? Like he doesn't want to give people encouragement or even know too much. He gave me a couple he sent me a couple videos. He's like, you cannot repost this. And I was like, oh my God, that's a juicy squat. Or, oh my God, he's like, don't repost it. I'm just letting you see. And I'm like, holy shit, Taylor. And that's when he made that post. You guys think you're close.
But you have no
You're
idea.
not, but you have no idea. And he
Yeah.
wrote that in the caption, and I knew, and I was like, fuck. I was like, damn. He's like, oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Man, I want to say something. I think it's like probably the most badass thing ever in powerlifting history. Like what he said and then what he did afterwards. I think
Yeah.
that has to be the most badass thing in the whole sports history till now, at least.
Isn't it like everyone wants that moment where you could be like, you come up with something like it's first off, it's a really close battle. It's like everyone's like, oh, who's gonna win? And you come up with something like fucking cocky, like a Taylor Atwood would, and you say something like that in the caption, and everyone's like, oh fuck. And then but when you do that, you are risking everybody who hates that cocky guy to throw it in your face if it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
That is the yin and the yang. You can't have both. Do you want to be that guy? Do you want to be like the Muhammad? You know how many people hated Muhammad Ali or I don't know, insert whoever the fuck is a confident athlete. You know how many people hated them? Like, if you're going to be Taylor Atwood, you know how many people are going to hate you for being so cocky and confident walking in there? But it is what it is, man. When you hit it right out the park.
I think, though, the line between being a cocky, confident athlete and just sounding like a straight up asshole is really thin, though.
It is.
I think not a lot of people can do it and can handle it like the way he's doing it and handling it. So I'd say most people that are doing it like, quote unquote, wrong, and they only look like assholes. Like, it's what I think, at least. But there are really few people who can do it like he did it. And
I got news for you, though. There's a lot of people who still think he's an asshole. I fucking love it. But there are people, I do, like, it is what it is. Everyone knows. But like his podcast with us, I have listened to that podcast he did with us so many times. Like, I use it as motivation. Like, I love that kind of talk like that. And that little snippet, the video I put of Taylor talking, like it is snippets of the podcast in it. And it was hyping the podcast, which fucking blew, by the way. And that video got shared like over 1,000 times or something. It was crazy. Like, everyone loved the sound bites Taylor was giving. And for everybody who loved it and was like, hashtag GOAT talk, hashtag, like, you know, champion mindset, whatever. There are people who like, they hate that kind of, like, you have to, it's almost like you have to be comfortable with both. Some people are going to love it. The Mamba mentality, the Black Mamba, like Kobe Bryant. Some people love that shit. And other people like, you're a narcissist. I can't wait till you lose. You know, like, it's the way it is, man. What do you think is line? What's the line for you between confident and arrogant?
I think there's something that I think it was for Worlds in Sweden, where they did like a little SBD video of him warming up, etc. And he was like with his father, and his father is like it's time to back it up. And I think that's where the line is drawn for me. And also it's obvious when you're like playing a role that's not yours, and when you're saying something like outrageous just to get, you know, responses and stuff. And it's something different to be like, you think you're close, but you have no idea. Like, saying that, he's not insulting anyone. He's just making a statement. Like, you think that this is going to happen, but I'm assuring you it's not going to happen. And it's going to happen this way. So I think, not playing a role, saying something that shows your confidence, but not necessarily like overdoing it. And also obviously backing it up at the end. So I think the line of his father was like, either put up or shut up. Now it's time to back it up, or something like that. I think it was along those lines. And I think that's
sounds
where
like
it's
something
different.
an old guy would say.
I think there's also a line of putting yourself up and putting other people down. Like, a lot of people come into the cocky thing, and it's like, I'm good because I'm better than you and you suck, which is quite different to I'm good because I train real hard and I am going to beat you. Like, that's like, those are like quite different statements as well.
Yeah, I agree. And that's really the like, from what I've seen, and because I also listened to the podcast you guys did with him, I didn't sense any like negativity towards the competition. He was just like, I think I'm strongest. I'm the best, and that's what I did. I just showed that I'm the best. So yeah, I think that there's the difference also. Like, it's not. I'm just stronger. That's it.
What do you think about this, fellas? I want both your opinions on this. So there is that whole backing it up. And I agree with that, right? Like, confidence without proof is like it's weak, whatnot. But there's also, and people have different opinions on this. Does it go too far? So far as winning solves everything. There's a fucking polarizing quote. Winning solves everything. And by saying that, let me throw some scenarios out there. Let's gangbang this thing, okay? Did that not translate well to Fred?
Given the context of the podcast and the messages we sent to each other, yeah, man, it's a little
okay. We're on point. If like almost everything you've said about how everything you're gonna do, as soon as you win, does it validate it? So like, okay, now that wasn't cocky, that was confident because I won. Or could you overstep the line? Or like does winning change it? If you lost, does that change how you behave leading up to? Like, what are your guys' thoughts on winning solves everything? Because to be honest, but go ahead, Rory. You look.
Do you want to go first, Pana?
I have something in my mind, and I'm afraid I'll forget it. So I know this will like echo to you, Ryan, as well, because you're an MMA fan, and I wouldn't say I'm an MMA fan, but I like to follow it and watch it. And like there was the title fight between Jorge Masvidal and Kamaru Usman.
Yeah.
And so Masvidal is like the badass guy we know, and he was talking a lot of shit going into the event, and at the end, he got knocked out like cold. Like, I think first time of his pro career or something like that. Like, clean.
50 fights, first time ever.
Yeah, and he's a badass dude. So getting knocked out cold by Usman, and also on like striking, which was the point of the trash talk. Like, you're not a good striker. Like, I'm going to outstrike you and so on. Anyways, and I think the way he handled the loss validated everything he said prior to the event, because he just was the better guy today. I just don't have anything to say. I didn't think that he would strike so hard and he would knock me out cold. Like, props to him. And before that happened, I would probably have said something like, I think, yeah, win solves everything. But seeing what happened afterwards and how people reacted around him, etc., and also the way he behaved afterwards, I think that sometimes whatever you win or you lose, it's really all about your mentality and like, what are you going to do next? So yeah, I don't think winning solves it all. It helps a lot, but yeah, I think you can solve some things in losses as well.
That's a good point, because yeah, maybe it's if win or lose, if you hold yourself well afterwards. Like, if you won and you could really rub it in the other guy's face and you choose not to, you shake his hand anyways, even though he talked mad shit about you, you talk shit about him, and now you won, and you walk over there and you shake his hand like, well done, hats off to you, pushed me. That says a lot. Or if you lose and you walk over there, shake his hand like, well done, it helps. What do you think, Rory?
Like, so Pana made the point that you can lose and still back it up to an extent, right? Like, you can still lose in a way that is good. And I would add to that you can also win in a way that still makes you an asshole. Like, yeah, winning helps a lot, right? Like, you talk shit and you don't win, like, that's, you almost look like an asshole by default. But if you win and you sort of win in a way that isn't particularly convincing, you still look like an asshole, right? Like, you talk mad shit about how you're going to kick somebody's ass, say in an MMA fight, and then you win on a close decision. Like, nobody like that's not really backing it up, right? Like, or imagine going into Worlds in 2019, had Jezza been talking mad shit and then he won because Ray bombed. Like, no one would look at that and be like, yeah, of course, yeah, like he backed that up, right? No, he didn't win. Jezza, like Ray lost, which is a different thing. He still would have looked like an asshole. Of course, Jezza doesn't talk mad shit, so that's so it's fine. And there's still a line that somewhere for where if you crossed it, you're an asshole regardless of how well you did and how well you like carry yourself afterwards.
Yeah. I mean, it's the thing is we love a winner though. Here's the thing. People are quicker to forgive a winner if you consistently win though, huh? Like we start making excuses for you. Like if Michael Jordan was an asshole and he just like was an asshole to his teammates, which like by a lot of accounts, he even said he was at times.
I mean, Lance Armstrong's a great example, right? Dude was a massive jerk and everyone seems to forget about it and everyone knows his name.
Because we make excuses for winners and we say like, that's part of the personality that makes him, you can't have both. You want a nice guy? He's probably not going to be a consistent winner. Like you can, but there's something about a fucking narcissist because the narcissist believes the world revolves around them. And that belief is insane to try to break. When it comes down to the wire and they honestly think they're a gift from God. They're like anointed. They're like, I'm different than you. You're immortal. Like they're like walking in there with that, man, I can't even be around you. Anyone who was around you in the real life would be like, fuck me, you'd be hard to work with. But when it comes down to that sport, they'd be so hard to push off path and intimidate when they actually believe. And they'll like, you know what I mean? Like it's one of those deals where you almost can't have one without the other at certain points. Like do narcissists do better in sports, do you think?
So I have a really interesting story. I think you'll enjoy it. And also it will give context for Worlds. So we have a guy on the 74 kilo team in France. And he's in the open team right now with me. And so leading into nationals, I was talking with some friends of him and they were like, man, we don't know if he's even going to compete. Like his back is like all jacked up and I don't think he was able to train like the last week properly, like destroyed, you know. They were like, we don't even think that he's going to be able to compete, you know. And funny story, I think he didn't have deadlift socks and they had to find deadlift socks for him, etc., etc. So, you know, it pictures the guy. And so he was in the group after me. And so I wasn't really watching what he was doing, but when I was finished up deadlifting, I checked the board and I see like, I think a 257 squat, like 150 bench, and he deadlifted like 308 or 307 or something like that. And yeah. I was like, man, what happened? Because their bodies, like, they didn't lie to me. You know, they were like, we don't even think he's going to compete. And the thing is that the guy was sure he was able to do that. And, you know, he's not really aware of like programming stuff and so on. And I think that he just believed it. You know, he was like, I'm here to do something and I'm here to compete. And so he put himself into this position where he just did it. And, you know, maybe having a guy with like overthinking stuff would be like, oh, you know, it's nationals, we're close from Worlds, maybe I should back it up, maybe I shouldn't go all in, maybe I shouldn't squat this or I shouldn't deadlift this and that. And the guy was like, you know, absolutely no doubt. And he was like, I'm just going to do it. And he just did it. So I think that sometimes, you know, I don't think he's a narcissist. I don't know him that well, but I don't think he is. I think he's just a really like believer, like he believes in himself. And he's like, today I'm going to be the best. And this day he was the best 74 on the platform.
So when Ryan asked that question just then, do narcissists do better in sports? I hopped on Google Scholar and looked it up. And I've actually found a paper that backs up exactly what Pana's just saying. It's called Pass Me the Ball, Narcissism and Performance Settings. And I've only read the abstract because it's only been like a minute. But it suggests that, at least based on the abstract, it looks like narcissists do actually perform better in sports, particularly in situations where there is perceived glory on the line. And so in a case like nationals, where there is actually glory available for doing well, or something like powerlifting, where you can post everything that you do on Instagram and, you know, likes are a reasonable substitute for glory, I guess. It could be that there is actually a performance benefit to being a narcissist in some sports.
I 100% believe that. I remember a buddy of mine was telling me, this is like some years ago, he's a filmmaker and he was into documentaries, and he had recently saw a documentary, was tinkering around with working with some athletes about how not kind of like Penny was saying, it wasn't even necessarily narcissism it focused on, but belief period, that when your science breaks down, so let's say you haven't eaten, you haven't hit the weights you're supposed to. I'm relating it to powerlifting. You relate it to whatever sport you want. When science breaks down and the numbers would indicate certain things, it shouldn't add up to a PR performance. And there are more than just powerlifting in terms of sports that are completely not opinion-based, but by the numbers. If you're talking track, swimming, jumping, for all the different events where it is by numbers. So it's not opinion-based. And you could look into some of the training and where science is broken down and they're like, you should not hit the same numbers. Sleep was down, calories are down, the training that you would hit in terms of, kilometers logged in terms of jogging or weightlift or whatever, everything's down. But they did a study on those that had a belief system, like a belief. Now, I mean, whether it's religious, whether it's like a narcissism belief that you fucking think you're something special, whether you just believe the universe has chosen you, which is also kind of narcissistic, but whatever the hell it is, destiny, fate, some people call it what you want. When there's belief, they said special things happen on those days, and they can't by science explain how the fuck did this girl run that, lift that, jump that, this man, and that happens. And it's by numbers. It's not even opinion. It was like you could measure it, and they're like they're not sure how. It's fascinating, man.
Yeah, I had something like that happening to me. I think it was actually was before Worlds 2019. So I was close regarding. So in France, basically, in order to make the team, you have to hit like what we call a minimal total. And so if you hit that minimal total, then you're in discussion for making the team. And if you're under that, like there's not even a discussion, like you're not part of the team. And that year it was 650 kilo total for the 66 kilos open division.
Holy shit, dude. That's actually pretty high for a qualifying. Yeah. Look at it. Like I know US raw nats, the qualifying totals are ridiculously low. 650 at 66 kilo class
for making the national team.
To even talk about it, that's still like
and even like let's say you do it, but you're like not top 5 or top 8 in your weight class, then you don't go there. So it's just to be part of the discussion in order to make the team. And so that year I was really close to that number. Like some training sessions I was on that, some training sessions I was below that, whatever. And so at that time I had really big struggles with my deadlifts. And so they were like super inconsistent. And I think for like 2 straight weeks, I missed what I was quote unquote supposed to hit in order to hit the 650 kilo total. And so I went into nationals not knowing if I would even be able to make the total. And really this year I was like, I'm either going to make the total like 650 or I'm going to bomb out. Like I really didn't even care. I didn't even care about like being national champ or whatever. I just wanted that 650 total in order to do Worlds. And so I did my squats, I did my bench. And so I chose on my deadlift opener what I missed like 2 straight weeks, because hitting that number would assure me the 650 total. And so being able to make World, to be on the team and to go to Worlds. And actually I did that. And just, I think it was 252 or 250, I can't remember. And so I just did 2.5 kilos jump after that because I didn't know what I was able to hit because I had missed that weight like 3 straight weeks. And so on that day, because there was that World's ticket on the line, and I was like, I'm either going to do it or I'm just going to bomb out. I did like, I think it was 252, then 255, and then 257. I think I did that. And it was really like,
you got all
I hit, I hit all of them. But 2 weeks ago, I wasn't able to hit it. Like I was hitting 242, 245, and then I was loading 250 or 252, and like either it wasn't breaking off the floor, or I was like stopping mid chins or just below the knees or something like that. And so on that day, I was like, whatever is going to happen, I'm either going to bomb out or I'm going to get my ticket for Worlds. And that happened because, like you said, I think, but I wasn't like, I'm just going to bomb out. That's okay. I was like, I'm going to get my ticket for Worlds. And so I'm going to put myself against a wall. And if I don't do it, then I'm just going to bomb out.
You went all in.
Yeah.
What do you think, Rory, man? Like there is like the same thing that make these athletes so special is that internal belief. It's a
coaching perspective. I think that is the only sensible decision, right? Like you showed up at that meet with the only priority being punch the ticket so you can go to Worlds, total 650 or go the fuck home. And so you loaded exactly what you needed to do. I'm like, that's the only sensible decision to make. And when what's that really shitty quote from that bodybuilder from the early 2000s? Something like not. Have you tried like 5 sets of fucking wanting it more or something? Like, do you guys remember that? And so you show up and you want it hard enough. And it's such a douchebag thing to say, right? It's like real shitty advice. But like you show up on the day and you load what you need to load. And it's like, well, guess we're doing this. So yeah.
There's something about though. I know what you mean. Where when you have your back on the wall and you have to. Like there's something about when you know what it is too. There's something about being in a moment when you're in the gym and you're just slugging away. It's not a moment, but there's something altogether different about being backstage in the warm-up room and it's fucking getting loaded and your handler tells you like you have to. Everything is on the line right now. You need to. This has to happen. You have to believe. Now go out there. I know you missed it 2, 3, 4 weeks. I know today's going to be different. And then you hear bar is loaded. You fucking chalk your hands and he smacks you on the back and the adrenaline runs through your fucking body. You walk onto that platform and you're eyeing that thing like you're about to rumble. And it's like, there's something different about a moment. I don't know what it is. You can't it's something special. You can find yourself caught in a moment. And, but you have to buy in. You got a 100% belief. That's why athletes are, it's a weird bunch. I just did a podcast with Anna Rosa Castellane, and we were talking about like some of her fierce rivalries. She was in a fierce rivalry with Priscilla Rubik from the US, back and forth. Both of them won so many titles. Both of them, Hall of Famers. Like Anna Rosa Castellane's won titles in different weight classes, in and out of equipment. Won the World Games. Priscilla's won so many titles. They're just like phenomenal lifters, right? And she said it got heated. It got like really heated between the two of them. And sometimes you like put something all in it where Anna Rosa talked about, they couldn't share a platform in the warm-up run because Priscilla was like, no. And Anna was like, do you mind if we're the same height? It's tight back here. It's the World Games. It's not like the World Championships. The World Games for anyone listening, multi-sport, multi-day, massive event. They have an athlete village, just like the Olympics, much like not as big as the Olympics, but they're literally, it's IOC recognized multi-sport. Like they would have baseball, golf in it, the whole nine. And they're back there. And Priscilla's like, no, we don't share a platform a warm-up platform. And I told Anna, I'm like, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know if I'm mad at that. I kind of see, let me ask what you guys think about this. Listen, not just anybody. If you're in rank 5th and you're the guy who's ranked 1st asked, do you want to share a platform? You're fronting like, my man, you're not even on this other guy's radar. Who you kidding? But if you are neck and neck swapping world titles back and forth, you're going to go to battle and you're like, not like I'm trying to put my foot on your throat, but I prefer not to be friends with you right now. I like the Taylor Atwood. I'm not here to be your friend. So the close proximityness and your coach laughing with my coach, and What do you guys think about that? Rory's shaking his head. Rory fucking has got a bad taste in his mouth right now.
No,
What-
like maybe you can be friends afterwards. But from the time that you start making weight till the time that the last deadlift hits the floor, you're not friends, right?
That a boy, Rory. I thought you were disagreeing with me. I thought you were like, no, come on.
Not sure. I'm not like if you're first and second, like you're not sharing a platform. If anything, you're on platforms on opposite sides of the warm-up room.
Dog,
Maybe your
that's
coach is like sneakily watching the other person's warm-ups, but like that's as close as you get, right?
I that's what I told Anna. I'm like, you know what? I'm not entirely against what Priscilla's saying. No. What do you think, Pana?
I'd say I don't necessarily agree.
With us or with
With you guys.
Okay.
Yeah, with you guys. Because personally, it's more about who the person is rather than like, is he my top contender or whatever. I have one guy, and actually he's in my weight class that I just can't get along with, and I would behave the way you guys did, and even worse, like not saying hi or nothing like that, because we had a beef together, and we actually had to settle it after the Arnolds in the bathroom.
What the fuck does that mean? You guys threw down in the bathroom?
Like,
you go. Anyways, he will be remembered by his family and his children, and God bless him. It's like,
but
what happened?
He went pretty far away. He went pretty far away, and but just to my point, and then if you want to talk about this story,
all right, yes, we do.
But just to my point, it's more about who the person is rather than like, is he my top contender or whatever, like I couldn't have absolutely no problem sharing the way up, the weigh-in room or whatever, weigh-in platform with like my top contender. But if it's somebody that I dislike for a reason, then like it's a war. And obviously, not for me, sharing a weigh-in platform doesn't mean we're friends. We don't have to look each other. We don't have to say hi or to smile or whatever. It's just us doing what we're here to do. But yeah, with that particular guy, then I wouldn't share a platform.
One sec, let me just ask you a question there before we go into the story, because I don't want to have to double back afterwards. But would it get in your head at all, or like, because you're like, there's a couple things like, for Rory's sake as a handler, he will be picking attempts and he wants to converse with you and whatever. So that is way too close to have any kind of changing your tempo at the last minute. Strategically, it's not great. Strategically, that's not good to be talking like, and if anything happens, the lifter comes back like, I'm fucking a little tight on the hammy and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, I need you to crush the second dead and fucking hit it with speed. And we got a bluff. I'm going to put a crazy bluff in, but it's a bluff. And we're going to like, there's certain things like that might not work strategically, but even like, would it get in your head though, if he's having a fucking killer day and you're a little bit hurting and you're like, I'd rather not fucking see him I'd rather just think that maybe he's hurting too, or like, you know what I mean? Like you could maybe just be like, maybe his confidence, some people's confidence can actually get in your head. There are people who, when they walk in the room, you're not quite as loud as you normally are. When they walk in there, there's some people who are so fucking dominant like that. That's not always good, man. And there's some people who know, I think I can be way more confident and bring this guy down a peg.
I don't know. Like, obviously for me, when I'm hitting a platform, and you probably know this by now, but whatever the platform is that I'm hitting, like, let's say if it's a local meet, let's say if it's nationals, let's say if it's world, whatever, I'm always going to give it my best, like my absolute best. And I'm not there on that day to like second guess everything and be like, oh, was it RP 7 or was it RP 7.5 or whatnot? I'm there to do something. I'm there for a reason, and I'm just there to give it my absolute best. And so really, I wouldn't care at all. And I think that would actually hype me up, that my top contender is watching me warming up, and I would be like, check this out, man. I would be more in that play rather than everything else. And to be honest, regarding making the right calls based on however everything's moving and so on, first, I think people cannot say how much I can load more on the bar because I can grind like crazy. So
That's true.
that wouldn't be
That's true.
maybe my opener will be low, and
Bro, yeah.
So I think there's that, but there's also in a way I think there are some counter arguments to the point I'm going to make, but at the end of the day, that's what I believe. I think the stronger athletes wins, period. Like, even if Taylor was warming up with Austin Perkins or whatever, and they were looking Taylor and they were like, oh, that last warm up was slow. At the end of the day, the stronger athlete is going to win, And so, yeah, that's why I wouldn't mind at all warming up with my top contender or whatever. I think that would actually hype me up.
Yeah, it depends. Taylor's so far ahead of everyone else. That would be.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
But if it's super duper close and it comes down to, it can come down to handling. There's the odd time that the stronger person didn't win sometimes, but it would depend. It'd be weird. I don't know, man. I personally, I think I might actually lean towards Priscilla on this one, but tell me about the time you killed somebody in a bathroom, in a McDonald's bathroom. Tell me about that time. It was a trucker. It was a trucker.
So the worst part. So wait, because the worst part is that, at least for now, we're both on the open team again.
Oh, fucking! This is such a juicy story, but
in the
I am full hard right now.
In the same weight class, actually.
Oh, fuck yeah!
So,
are you serious? What?
So you know who it is, right?
I don't know, dog. I'm gonna pull it up now. Rory, you pulling it up?
I am.
I don't want to. I wouldn't want to mention his name personally.
Okay.
But if you look at the nominations in the 66 kilo open, there are two French gentlemen. I'm one of them, and he's the other guy.
Okay.
So the story started like at nationals, what I said earlier, and so there he was competing at 66, and I was competing like 1 kilo above. Sorry. So I was at 67. So I was with the 74s, and he was with the 66s. And so I wasn't there to win best lifter or whatever. I was there to do my 650 total to get my ticket for Worlds. And so, like, we didn't even make the goals for what I was supposed to hit on deadlifts in order to win best lifter overall. And actually, he beat me best lifter overall by like 1 point, I think, or something like that. And so on the podium, what he did was he does double biceps on the podium, double biceps, and he actually put his elbow in my face.
Oh, damn!
And not subtle, like pushing it.
What? He actually made contact with your face.
Yeah. And
Doggy.
Because...
Okay, my blood pressure just went up.
Yeah.
Oh, and wow. I'll check you in the McDonald's bathroom, Playboy. You better. We're going to lock that door.
So then immediately I was like, I'm going to push his hands away. And the thing is that it was live streamed. And regarding the angle of the camera, like, it wasn't obvious that his face was pushing against my face. But I have a photo where we can perfectly see the angle. And if you want me to send a photo for
I want to see it. I want to see it. Send it through.
Yeah, I'm going to send it. And so I was like, I'm going to like push his hand away. And I was like, no, if I do that and it's live stream, then I'm going to look like the bad guy who's like butthurt that he just lost best lifter overall. And again, we didn't calculate anything regarding best lifter. I was just there to do my best total on that day. And so then, it wasn't about going to him and being that sore loser and like, hey man, what the fuck, I was like, okay, you want to play it that way? Let's go, Playboy. We're going to play it this way. And so the whole summer, whenever I had to hype myself for a set, they were screaming, like the guys at my gym were screaming his name to hype me up. And they were like, his name. And I was like, dude,
I've seen this crazy. In Pumping Iron. This is what happened with fucking Pumping Iron. We're like, Arnold.
Exactly. Yeah. And if I was like hard on a set and I had to go up, they were like, you know, remember the guy. And I was like, okay, let's go, let's load that in, you know. And actually, I was doing the Arnold's this year, and he signed up like last minute at the Arnold's, and I was like, oh, sweet. Now we're going to have our, you know, our round 2 together. And so we went there. We're in the venue, and I'm sitting with my friends, with my friend Corentin, and we're just chilling. We're just talking, and he comes to us, and he's like, "What? You don't want to shake my hand?" And I was like, "Whoa, dude, what the fuck? Like, I'm just here talking with my friend, and I didn't see you here." And he's like, "Yeah, it's not because we're on the same, we're in the same weight class right now that you're not going to shake my hand." And he was like, "Dude, like, what are you even talking about? I'm just here talking." And you know, and at first I was thinking that he was playing mind games, and he was trying to like derail me, and because some guys told me that that's his stuff, you know. And I was like, okay, whatever, I'm just going to stay focused on what I have to do, and you know, that's it. So we do the day, and he actually does his last deadlift, and with that deadlift he I think he outworks me by 1 point or something, but Jesus. It's a no lift for, I can't remember if it was lockout issue or you know, hitching at the end, but it was a no lift. And so I'm in the bathroom washing my hands, and he goes right next to me, and I'm like, you know, like, nice attempt on his last dead.
Doggy, hang on a second. Okay, first off, if I thought you were gonna say he got it, and I'm like, you better watch those elbows, Playboy. But okay, but then that whole, you're in the washroom washing it side by side. You go, nice attempt.
Yeah.
Were you was it sarcastic, or were you like, it was a good attempt?
Honestly, it was a little bit of both.
Yeah, okay,
because like I wanted to like punch him a little bit, but I was like also like, I think he was like 303 for a 66 kilo master, which is like an insane deadlift. Like whatever, even I hate the guy, but you can't argue that his deadlift is like world class, and he's a master lifter, which makes it even more interesting and impressive. But anyways, and he's like, oh, I was about to congratulate you, but since you're a sore loser, then I won't. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, yeah, this morning, you remember you didn't want to shake hands with me and so on. And I was like, dude, what are you talking about? You like throw your fucking elbow in my face 2 months ago, 3 months ago. And now just because I didn't say hi the minute I saw you, you're making a whole scene out of it. I think you're the sore loser here. And he's like, no, this never happened. I never put my elbow in your face and whatnot. I was like, okay, wait a second. I'm going to check my phone, and yeah. And it was actually in my favorite pictures. Like it is again right now. Like I can pull it in 30 seconds. It's in my favorite pictures, because whenever I need some extra hype, I look at this picture, and I show that to him, and he's like, oh no, you know, like the double biceps thing is just something I do just to be funny on the podium or whatever. I was like, yeah, man, but like you didn't do it. Like you fucking put your elbow in my face, while the guy who was third, his elbow is like way away from him. Yeah. And he's like, oh yeah, sorry, I wasn't aware, it was unintentional and so on. And why didn't you come talk to me afterwards? And I was like, you know, I didn't want to look like a sore loser like you are right now, like discussing everything. And he's like, oh, you know, I want us to get along and so on. And I was like, okay, let's see how it goes. And, you know, long story short, 6 months later, he tried to do me dirty again. And now I hate the guy. And whenever I see him.
How did he try to? I think I know who it is, by the way. I haven't.
Yeah, you know.
Okay, cool. He's actually phenomenal. A phenomenal lifter too.
Lifter. Yeah.
Yeah, fuck, I can't.
Which is sad, you know, because when like coming up as a 66 lifter, I don't want to say he was my idol or nothing like that, but he was somebody I was looking up to, because he was the guy. I wanted to beat that guy, and not badly, not in a mean way, just he was the guy.
You look up to him, yeah.
Yeah, and you know, as long as I was like 50, 60 kilos behind him, he was like making jokes with me and being all friendly and so on. And the minute I was like close to his numbers, he became like, you know, vicious like that. And so now I hate the guy.
It's tough because, like, I don't know, it's weird because he's older, man. He's older than me, dog.
Yeah.
Like you usually, I don't know.
And he also did other things like there was a guy training with him, and I was actually getting really well with this guy. We were getting along, sending messages, laughing around on Insta, whatnot. And so one day this guy sends me a message, and he's like, at nationals, the guy against whom I'm against is going to beat you with his openers. And I don't think that's the message you send to someone expecting to have a friendly conversation afterwards.
No shit. Yeah. Well,
so I'm like, and I was with friends. I was actually with Leah and stuff, and we were eating a pizza. And like, I check my phone, and 2 seconds afterwards, I'm red in anger. And they'll look at me and they're like, "Oh, what is going on?" And I'm like, nothing. And then I explained that to them later. And so actually, I was betting. I wanted to bet with this guy because he was like, "I'm betting you that he's going to do this and that and blah 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 and blah blah blah." And so afterwards, he actually told me that it's the guy that told him to send me this message to get me angry, And so, like, there are like 5-6 other stories like that. And
holy smokes!
Now I hate the guy, and we just can't get along. And I don't even want to say hi to him. And we crossed ways at nationals, and not a side, not a hi, not a how are you, nothing, because like now he knows I hate him, and I'm fine with that, and I'm fine with him hating me as well.
Damn, things can go sideways quick,
man.
Yeah.
I'm a cool guy, but when you rub me the wrong way, like once, twice, I'm like, okay, that's it. Now I'm done with you.
It's boundaries help though. Like at a certain level, it's one of those deals where, yeah, you need boundaries. Look, if I try to pretend, if I let you in and I start saying hi, whatever, we do this little talk thing, it could turn into passive aggressive bullshit that continues on and on. Or if it's like, look, let's agree to disagree. We got to, we just won't talk. If I see you, I'm not going to talk. And that's not me trying to go to my way to diss you. That's literally me trying to keep my peace. Yeah. Let's keep the peace. This is the best way to keep the peace. Boundaries are good for me and they're good for you. And apparently we need strong ones, like the 3 inches in front of my face. Yeah, that's a no-fly zone, Playboy. Keep your elbows out of there. Keep your face out of there. That's a no-fly zone. 3 inches in front of my face. That's just whatever.
One thing, France is really growing in terms of powerlifting, and obviously now there are like some little wars, quote unquote, that are going on in France between some groups and so on. And so for me, when I have a beef with somebody, when I'm in war, quote unquote, with somebody, like, I don't want to pretend anything, I'm not going to say hi because that's the way it is. We're in war. We don't get along. We hate each other. So let's agree. Like you said, let's agree to disagree. I'm going to cross your way and I'm not going to look at you. I'm not going to say hi. I'm not going to smile at you. Like, I hate you. You hate me. We're cool, And actually during nationals, I think a lot of people were surprised by the way I behaved with them because, I don't get involved on online beefs. Like if somebody wants to trash talk, that's fine. But like in reality, like LeBron James said, "The fuck out of my face," and I like that quote. So that's the way I view things. Like, get the fuck out of my face. I don't want to see you. I don't want to say hi. And like last nationals was pretty intense.
Really? Whoa, man. This is like how things well, maybe they haven't changed since like 2019. Because you were kind of saying, one of the questions I wanted to ask you, because last time you were at Worlds was 2019, and how much everything has changed in your return to Sweden. It's only been 2 years, but oh my God, as powerlifting in France changed, like you guys have gone from like no one really knowing who you are, like France in general, to like stars coming out of France and like a team full of shooters and everyone. I had just recorded a podcast with Anna Rosa Castellane and it got brought up, like the French team, the French women, like, oh my God. And she's like bringing up names and stuff. And like, it's a lot has changed. And one of the things you were telling me about was there was an old guard that saw things differently than the young bloods. And now the young bloods being yourselves started revolutionizing things. You started, for anyone listening who haven't heard previous podcasts, you've been on a few times now, but you were one of the first who, first off, obviously anyone listening knows you got really good English. So you started reaching out and beyond France and started taking online training programs by Mike T and started revolutionizing how you approach programming, brought it back into France where some of the old guard was not doing this, and was one of the first to start applying these new skills you had learned about, as well as your own ideas, and adding them and advancing. And then all of a sudden, people like Naomi Alibert, Leah Bavois, like you just started coming out with shooters, including yourself. And then 2019 Worlds happens, and they end up on everybody's radar. And then the European Championships happens, and they end up on everybody's radar. And then so things started changing, obviously. And now everybody in the freaking world knows who all you guys are. You got even more lifters on board and more people coming up. And let alone that amazing story about Samantha Eugene, who lived with you guys during lockdown in a high school. It was like high school power. It was like a fucking Netflix special. Rory, do you know about this? They literally lived in a high school, him and his girlfriend, with Samantha Eugene. They adopted a teenager, and they're in their 20s. They adopted a teenager, lived in a high school, and smashed weights in lockdown together. It was crazy, man. So much has happened in just those 2 years, and so much has changed. How much different does it feel now going into these world championships, now that everybody knows who you are? How have things changed in France that you were kind of leading? I mean, I think I called the podcast Leader of the French Revolution, which couldn't have helped in terms of creative jealousy in France.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I wanted to ask you, what has it been like, man? Not only you got recognition, but you're probably going to get the old guard being pissed off you're coming up. And then you're get other people who are coming up as well, a little jealous. And these fucking guys think they're all that. And how is it different in France, man?
It's completely different. And it's crazy to see that in 2 years, when you brought everything up, I was rethinking about how we came down to here. And it's completely different. Pretty much the old guard doesn't exist anymore in France. Erased.
You dealt with them in too many bathrooms.
Yeah.
Bathroom by bathroom, you dealt with those. They got what they had coming.
Yeah. Exactly. The old guard is completely erased, and now we have more teams coming up. Obviously, a lot of them with that American in general influence regarding powerlifting, regarding strategies, programming strategies and stuff. Like I told you earlier, we have 2 or 3 guys, I can't remember correctly, that just joined TSG, and they will be part of the junior team for Worlds. So we will have French lifters lifting for France, but coached by TSG, which is an American powerlifting coaching company, which is crazy, I think. But yeah, and like you said, now it's different, and we don't have the old guard, but I don't know if what we have right now is better. I think we're more advanced in our powerlifting strategies and the way we view the sport. But we have some beefs now that are different than the ones before, and obviously I'm part of some of them. I don't want to say all of them, but a lot of them, I'd say. But because, I think obviously, when you look at the resume, I coached, at least for now, probably the best lifters, female and not male, but I'm actually currently the best male lifter in France. But obviously, it's polarizing in a way. And so, yeah, we had some beefs, like I told you, at nationals and stuff. But what's really changed for me is that people in France really care so much about Instagram, and so many stuff happen on Instagram, like training, like everybody posts everything always, all the time. Like if you type the hashtag regarding the French Federation, you have dozens of posts every day. And before it was one post every week. and it was like a set of 3 with 120 kilo squat or whatever. Now it's like you see all of those crazy numbers, all of those crazy posts. And I think also the fact that we all document whatever we're doing. Like Leah posts pretty much all of her training, like I do the same. I also do YouTube videos regarding technique, regarding programming strategies, regarding like the powerlifting meta, I'd say, regarding programming and stuff. And so that really, I think, is entitling to a lot of people, because now the information is there in French. And I have some projects that I'm working on in order to make the information even more accessible to French people that aren't speaking English. And I think that's the main difference. Now the information is there. Now the information is ours. And I think that's one of the main reasons why everything is exploding in France. And really, to be honest with you, I think, I don't want to go ahead of myself, but I'd probably say the French female are going to win the Open at Worlds. I don't see any team like that stacked. We have Tiffany in 47. We have Noemi and Shizuka in 52. So we have 2 lifters there. I don't think we have anybody in 57. We have Leah in 63.
Caroline in 57.
Oh yeah, but I don't think she's going to top 5. Or yeah, I don't think she's going to top 5.
Damn.
But we have Amelie then in the 84 plus, and that's pretty much it. But you have like 5 killers who are all going to be top 3 for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's
and the junior team as well is really, really strong. The junior male team is really strong.
I mean, well, first off, TSG, the strength guys, the head dude is Jason Tremblay. He's Canadian.
Oh, my bad.
There you go, my man.
My bad. Sorry.
Don't take him from us. He's Canadian.
Sorry.
Now, having said that, though, they're no longer, because they're an outfit. So I mean, guys like Arian, for instance, who's like a co-host on the podcast, but he's American. He's a TSG, and like they have people in Asia and like so they're kind of a little bit of everything, if I'm honest.
New Zealand.
Do they have New Zealand as well? People in New Zealand like who are coaching?
Yeah, Kedrick.
Oh yeah, Kedrick is in New Zealand. Alfred is in Canada. So anyways, they're all over the place. Like they're, but you're right. Like it is cool how it reminds me, going back to like, yes, I'm doing the Taylor Atwood program. And for a while there, they were sitting on releasing the Taylor Atwood program. I got it before everybody else. It's going to be released, but I remember a discussion was, if we do this, people are going to start knowing what he does. If not exact, you get ideas. Oh, this is the workload. Oh, well, in this day, the volume and workload they do, they're stacking squat dead, and then they're doing, and the ideas of structurally, etc. This is how we all grow. But there is that, are you comfortable showing everybody yet? And I know with Taylor, after what he did at Raw Nats, that would probably help be like, okay, I'm pretty far ahead. I feel somewhat comfortable. But gaps get closed really quickly in powerlifting. And this is something where it's like, look I'm going now to get information from elsewhere in English, translating it into French, distributing it, and for the good of like the French lifters, period. Not just my own lifters, but I'm putting out content and just allowing people to grow and that's great. Dog, no matter what happens in the future, people are going to look back. There is a contrast in a parallel, whether people like to, in a correlation, whether people like to admit it or not, between yourself doing what you did and when we did that initial podcast, and then the explosion in France, where I'm not saying it's all on you, but you definitely have helped. You're one of the first to go out there beyond, learn these other styles, bring it back, translate into French, and then start pumping out content. And it's not a coincidence that a lot of your lifters that came up through you, whether they're still with you or not, came up through you. Okay. Like the first early stars came up through you. This isn't coincidence, man. This happened on the timeline. It is what it is. Flip side, you are feeding your competitors.
Yeah.
There is,
Yeah.
Flip side, like that's great. But you are. Like this is what they had to talk about in Strength Guys when they started releasing. This
You have
is,
to carry brass knuckles into the bathroom with you every time. Just
and now you got
something
now
rolls up next to you.
in those bathrooms, you going in 2 or 3 at a time now. You know what I'm saying? It's like, who's in this bathroom? There are hits out. But what do you think
Yeah,
about
100%.
that? Like in
You
terms
know,
of,
to be honest with you, sometimes I'm second guessing if I'm releasing this video or not. I'm like, am I giving enough information so that people can grow, can learn? Because that's why I'm doing it. Otherwise, I wouldn't. But am I not putting my lifters at a disadvantage, or am I not putting the people that are actually hiring me as a coach at a disadvantage by giving, quote unquote, this much information for free?
Mm.
And I'm trying to balance everything out in this regard because I want to help out as many people as possible. But obviously, I also want to give a bonus, to give something to the guys that are directly hiring me, that are working with me, that I don't give to others like easily. You know what I mean?
mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to balance everything in this regard. Exactly. But, you know, for instance, like I don't know how to say it, but whatever information I'm giving to others, like I'm not going to let them be better than me. You know what I mean? Like I'll have to do whatever I'll have to do. I'll train like a madman in order to stay on top and in order to still be the number one or whatever the information I give, whatever's. And you know, there's a funny thing that I'm not even aware, but some guys that are actually top guys in France that are on the world team, etc. I'm not coaching them. I had never coached them, but they told me like, hey man, I watched your videos when I was not that strong, and I used your cues, I used your ideas, and now I'm stronger. Obviously, it's not all of that because they trained, because they had the program or whatever. But I also had some really, really strong dudes telling me that, and some of them were like, hey, I even tagged you in a post like 2 years ago and you didn't notice or whatever. And you know, it's funny to see now. It's funny to see.
It's I know it's like it makes you be like, holy shit. I didn't think, you don't know these, like, to be like, this is crazy, this is wild, because I was the guy going outside looking up to like Mike T's taking his workshops and just trying to do something. And now when other people talk to you like that, you're like, holy smokes, man, it's got to feel good. We'd be like, all right, well, that's good, man. At least I'm passing something on.
Yeah.
But also when enough people come through your system anyways, though, information is going to get passed on. Like your programming is eventually going to get out there. Like it's almost inevitable. The more people
it's already
you train,
done.
it's
Yeah,
already
it's
done.
already done. Yeah,
People have come and gone through you. This is here's another thing. Your team isn't like this is common knowledge now. We know God got into it, but people like shooters, like stars, like Naomi Alibert moved on. That's fine. People move on. That's fine. Joey Flex. I had him on one time. Well, I've had him in a bunch of times, but one time I asked him, you know, you had like Sean Noriega's, John Hacks, like a freaking shit.
Jesse Norris.
Jesse, like
Norris
he's
as
had
well.
people in, like, it's just natural. It eventually everyone, like, it's very rare someone stays in powerlifting from beginning to end with the same coach. I was like, is that tough? How do you deal with it? Like, yes, they're leaving with all your knowledge, and then they're going to go on and then some to add it on to someone else. So there is your knowledge, and then they're going to add on to that with someone else's as well. And it is like a shit, I've become my own competitor to an extent, and that's fine. But you do, they bring everything you gave them, as well as it's got to be tough emotionally to be like, fuck, man. And he said, like Joey said, he's like, you do it enough times, you realize it's part of the game. And you realize, and Rory, you could probably speak this as well, because you're also a coach. And so I'd like to get your input on this as well. But he's like, this is part of it. Powerlifting, whether it's all sports, if you follow sports teams, they leave through coaching staff on one team, and they leave a team and they play for another team. This happens. You have to accept it, and it is what it is. But I personally am that type of dude, an emotional type of dude, and like that kind of a people person interaction dude. That would be really hard for me to, like, you would wish them well and all the rest of it, but it'd be like, this is the shitty part. This is the shitty part where you're like, can we all just stick together forever? Can we, like, but you can't. But it is like, oh man, I brought you up though. This is tough. It's all good, but it's tough because, you know, we came up together. Like, that's the hard part.
Yeah. You know, To be honest with you, like first, whenever I'm hired by someone, whether it be an international lifter or whatever, right now I'm coaching lifters from other countries, like from Spain, like from Canada as well, and so on and so on. So obviously the informations that I'm giving, the way that I work, the way that I think, programming in powerlifting and stuff will be passed on. And in reality, I really don't care. I think it's part of the game actually. And for me, that would be like a shitty move as a coach to be like, oh, I'm going to wait 6 months. And if this guy or this girl sticks with me for 6 months, then I'm going to give, quote unquote, the real information. For me, that's a douchebag move and you shouldn't do that. Obviously, you should be cautious with who you are agreeing to have as a client, because for me, when you say, okay, I'm going to coach you, then you do it 100%. You give your absolute best for this person to develop. Like you give your cues, you give your strategies, you give your the mental aspects, you give your absolute best, like water cut strategies and so on and so on. And so obviously, like you said, sometimes things don't end up really well. And like the part with Noemi was my first real, how can I say, my first real like breakup. And it was a rough one. Like out of respect, I don't want to talk, I don't want to mention it, but it's not, we're all good, you know what I mean? Like we have some stuff, again, moving on. And so, to be honest, I could like rumble about it. I could be like, oh shit, I shouldn't have done this, or I should have done that, or I did this or I did that for, or whatever. And to be honest, I'm not, because I think if you are coaching people in order for you to get something out of it, then you chose the wrong profession. You chose the wrong thing to do. If you're doing it, you're doing it for the person, and that's it. And whatever happens, And so when we had that breakup, and even I had some other breakups with some other high-level lifters, and obviously, again, like you said, they quote unquote get away with the knowledge I passed on to them or the strategies or whatnot. To be honest, I don't care. I think that I'm doing a job that I can only do the way that I'm doing it, and if people are benefiting from it, that's great. And if they're not, then move on. I'll move on as well, and things are better off this way.
Yeah, very mature way of handling it, dude. What about you, Rory?
Like the moral thing to do is that when someone hires you as a coach, you give that 100%, right? And so if you're going into that going, this person is going to walk away with the knowledge that I give them, like I would say that yes, they are. Like that's part of the package, right? Like that's why they're hiring a coach, and why they're not just like downloading a free program like Shaco 34 from Reddit or whatever the fuck. Like that you hire a coach not just to tell you what to do, but also to teach you structure for the way that you approach things. And like, yes, people walk away with information as a result of that, but I would say that's a good thing. Like that's part of the package that you're selling, is the knowledge, the structure, how the pieces fit together, because it's not just programming, right? Like you can take a program from somewhere. So I can take the Taylor Atwood program that TSG is publishing, and I can study that, and I can go, look, these are the loads that they're doing. This is the way they're structuring it. But that doesn't give me the same information as actually working with the coach that Taylor is working with, because it's not just the program, right? It's a cohesive set of information. And so like that knowledge is necessary, but not sufficient to be good at progressing. And yeah, people take this and they go on to another coach, but but these ideas have to work together. Like you can't take I can't take the structure from the Taylor Atwood program and apply it to the load management strategy from Shaco and just like mush these things together and be like, yeah, sweet, that's going to be great. It's going to be a disaster. Like it doesn't work like that. And so like, yeah, there's information transfer, but like I would argue it's a net benefit for the powerlifting community when there's this information transfer, because that's how we come up with new ideas, right? Like we take little pieces of this and little pieces of that, and then we try them. And if they work together well, then we're like, okay, cool, this is the new concept that I'm moving forwards with. And if they don't work well, you go, okay, cool, well, we tried that, we found out it didn't work very well, we're going to try a different thing next. And if you do, and when everyone does that consistently, you develop new ideas over time, right? Like we often credit Mike T with bringing RPE into powerlifting, but RPE existed like 40 or 50 years before that in other sports. And so what actually happened is Mike T sees this idea somewhere else and he goes like, I wonder if this works with powerlifting. He tries it and it does work, and now it proliferates across the entire world. And Pana looks at things in English and goes like, I'm going to translate this into French, and then it proliferates across France and other French speaking countries. So like this is a net good thing for all of us. Even if sometimes it does mean that you have to have messy breakups with particular athletes.
There's also the emotional side is difficult to part ways with somebody that you brought up. Like there's actually an emotional side, if we're honest, where you're like, fuck, it's going to be tough. Well, hats off to you. You got to do what you got to do. But that is a tough one too. Like, you know what I mean? Especially if you have moments together and you got history. You think back and you're like, fuck, we got a history. That's hard.
And we did. So that's the worst part of it, I'd say. But I think that I don't want to say time heals everything, because that's a dumb thing to say. But in a way,
you know what? I believe in that though,
truth.
dog.
Yeah.
Dog, I'm telling you right now. Look, I'm 42, so I'm older. But there's some times like so enough time. I have more time on my docket, and I've had some like from younger straight beasts where you're like, man, this guy's so dead to me. And like, I mean, like early 20s, like, man. And then later on in life, you meet the same dude and you're like, I couldn't give a fuck less what happened earlier. How you doing, man? Yeah, we don't got to be boys right now, but we are 100% good. How you been?
Yeah.
Like, you don't give a shit. Like, it is like so water in the life has a way of totally making you not care about what happened 10 years ago anymore. Do you know what I mean? Like there is.
Yeah. It's rough. Yeah. But I just want to say something, and I 100% agree with Rory. I think what is like the only time where I'm like, I'm kind of regretting it, sorry, is when we part ways, like, and it's going bad, you know what I mean? Like that's where you can like second guess and be like, oh, if I didn't do this or that. But otherwise, like, thank God everything thinks like I'm going to provide this information for everybody. Because like you said, I think, to be honest, I think that without Mike T, powerlifting wouldn't be at this place worldwide. Like not only in France. I don't think that we would be this high and we would have this level of competition and those lifters and whatnot without Mike T and without his strategies, and also without his staff, because he wasn't just by himself. I'm also thinking Jim, RTS, and Jim Ellie and stuff. But I think we wouldn't be here without him. And so that's like, thank God he was like, oh, what if I try this? Oh, that's great. And now what if I'm passing on this information? And obviously at first you pass the information for free for people to be like, oh, that's interesting. Let me check. And then what I did was I took the classrooms with him. And like, I think this was probably one of the best things that happened to me as a powerlifting coach.
Do you guys think we'll ever have another revolutionary moment? Like when RPE was Yeah, I didn't even finish. You were like, yes, it will. Look at you guys, Mr. Optimistics. Listen, all of us want to be the person, if we're honest, who fucking finds the next RPE. Imagine, like, doesn't it? I would love to have be able to be the guy and be like, it wasn't Mike T. Like, I fucking invented RPE for powerlifting. I brought it over. I changed the game. If you're using RPE, you need to say my name because I'm trademarking it. Like, dude, RPE is such a big one.
Yeah.
Like, can you somewhat try to argue? I fucking, you know, pause squat. I don't want to say nothing, but I started the pause squat. You didn't start the pause squat.
Lynch squat. Thank you very much.
Yeah, exactly. It's like nobody's believing that shit. Like, it's hard. Really? So you guys do. Tell me, like, it's hard for me to think about something as big as RPE. I'm sure, because no one saw RPE coming. It's the way the world works. You don't see it coming. That's why. But like, it's hard for me to think RPE. Like, I swear to God, when I first got onto RPE, I was like, this is crazy. I can't believe it.
Yeah. So first, I want to say something just for the record. I think a lot of people that are right now starting powerlifting don't even know that Mike T is the one who brought the RPE into the sport. So
that's crazy.
It's now more of like a powerlifting nerd story to say, and only like quote unquote with like big quotes, the the older people that are in the sport that know that. But I think
We're
that
getting old.
yeah, sadly, me too. But I think I should like that will be really bold for me to say, yeah, I think we're going to have something as big and as revolutionary as the RPE in the coming future. I don't think we'll maybe have something as big as that, but for me, one thing that we're going to have, and that is going to be a game changer, is we are going to have a meta developed around the strategies that we used worldwide. If you check around, if you look, some of the top guys are doing like pretty much squat, bench, deadlift, or really close variations to those, with some strategies, some schemes that you can see. And I think that is going to be the last change we will need for the sport to like really deeply develop. And I think that's actually in a way the contrary to like the older guys were doing, and especially here in France, where they were like, fuck specificity. If you're only squatting, benching, deadlifting, you're going to injure yourself and you're not going to develop. They were like, you have to do rows in order to build to build a big back, in order to deadlift the big weights, and so on and so on. And now, I at least that's my view and that's my take on it. I think specificity is 100%, and this meta will develop and be the really big change for the sport, I think.
What do you think, Rory? Do we have another RPE revolution coming?
Of the magnitude of RPE, like I would say, yeah, probably. Like I don't have a crystal ball, or at least my crystal ball doesn't work very well, and so I can't look into the future and be like, hey, this is what the change is going to be. Like this is the idea that someone has that's going to revolutionize the way that we think about things. I don't think it's going to be velocity. I know a lot of people are touting velocity as like the next RPE. I think velocity is good. I don't think it is, an order of magnitude better than RPE, and it's a lot more expensive to implement. So, I think that's a small improvement over RPE rather than like a revolution over RPE. But I think there'll be something. And Pana makes a good point about like an emerging meta within like powerlifting coaching strategies, and like that's definitely a thing which I see, and there's sort of like a convergent approach towards like this sort of consistent meta. I wonder if future improvements might be non-gym improvements. I think powerlifting athletes are like notoriously bad for ignoring all of the shit that they have to do outside of the gym, like sleeping 8 to 10 hours a night, staying hydrated, like not like that sort of thing. Like, and so I wonder if we might start seeing improvements in the non-gym things in a way that improves our gym and meet performance, maybe. But like I said, my crystal ball doesn't work very well. I think it's safe to say that there's going to be something in the next 10 to 20 years. Like there'll be something, and we're going to look back and be like, I can't believe how did we get through everything without this? But I don't know what that thing is yet.
I think there is going to be something about the load management that we're getting close to. Like, for instance, I know we're getting really sophisticated with it. Like when Jason Tremblay, who's the head of the strength guys, he on the Taylor podcast that you guys heard, when he was talking about when they were putting this together, the big US Raw Nats performance that he ended up like everyone's all crazy about. And he was putting it together, going over all the numbers over and over. And like they had crunched all the numbers, and then they put together that program for what ended up being that crazy performance at US Raw Nats. And then he sent his work over to this guy with 2 PhDs in load management in Australia or something like that. And the guy reviewed it, and he had like peer reviewed work on it. And like, I think at some point we're going to start nailing down a more comprehensive look. I realize it's going to be personalized, but per division, per weight group, we're going to have an overall more universal understanding of if your body weight falls within this range, if your body weight falls within that range, we're going to actually start improving upon, and it'll be more universal knowledge on it. We're like in terms of load management. And I think we'll look back and start being like, I'm sorry, what? How long were your sessions? What was the rep ranges? How much weight did you shift over the course of that session? And then it'll be like, Jesus, in 2019, we thought we were working hard. A lot of these people weren't working as hard as they thought they would. Like I talked to some people who aren't at all in powerlifting, and they talk about weightlifting and they're like, yeah, my brother, it's crazy. He's obsessed. He works out like an hour every day, like 5 days a week, an hour every day. Just who squats for an hour? Just squatting. It's crazy. He's obsessed. And I'm like, that's fucking scratching the surface. You have no idea. Yeah, that's cute. You have no idea. And I get like that's someone outside of powerlifting, so they're incredibly ignorant of it. But what I'm saying is though, it shows you how like when you're ignorant, you don't realize it. And I think the more we start sharing things, like when people start looking at like what Taylor did. Now Taylor's program is going to work for a 120 kilo plus lifter, but the more people start sharing data, kind of like Pana was saying, like he shares data with the rest of France and it's converted and people see it. I think we're going to more and more start getting closer and closer to having an idea of, don't tell me this is too much work. You could do this at the proper RPE. Fucking, you got to start stepping up to the plate and training like a goddamn pro athlete. Like if you think people in the NBA don't train this hard, you're a fool. And if you know what I mean? Like people talk like, I think we're going to just have a different comprehension of it. And if you're just not built like that or just don't have it in you, then just say that, you know, but the beautiful thing about RPE is if you stay in your RPE, you should make it to the end of this 3.5 hour session. Why are you not adjusting?
I actually have a counter suggestion, Ryan.
Okay. Okay, love.
So you're saying that you think in the future we're going to have this sort of top-down view of like the sorts of loads that ranges that people can handle based on sort of body weight and morphology and things like that. And what I'm going to suggest is actually the opposite. What I'm going to suggest is that I'm going to borrow some ideas from software development. So if I start talking about things that you don't that you've never heard of before, stop me and I'll explain, because it's a pretty good chance the audience won't know either if that's the case. I'm gonna use a thing called the Cynefin framework, which is this framework for how you think about the knowledge that you have about the future. And one of the domains of the Cynefin framework is this thing called the complex domain. And what the complex domain tells you is that you're in the area of unknown unknowns, which is that you don't know what information it is that you need to be able to make a decision. And so an example of unknown unknowns is human physiology. And so there are some inputs into human physiology that we know are important, right? Number of calories, amount of protein, how much sleep you've had, how much iron is in you have in your body at the time, things like that. We all know that those are important inputs. We don't necessarily know what those values are right now, but we know that if we did know them, that would be useful for something. However, I suspect that there are also things about that we don't know that go into that. Does humidity affect our performance? Like, it's a pretty good guess that maybe it does, but I'm not sure. Does temperature affect our performance? It's a pretty good guess that it does, but I'm not sure. Does the oxygen saturation of where you are at the time affect your performance? If I hopped in a lab and we turned the oxygen up from 21% to 23%, is that going to affect my performance? I don't know. Or if you
sleep in it, like oxygen.
If I sleep in it.
Yeah.
If I sleep at high altitude, if I sleep at low altitude,
yeah.
Like these are all things that we don't know about human physiology. And therefore, trying to predict the future based on the fact that we don't know what we don't know about the inputs into the system, which is already complicated as shit, and try and predict the future, that's a fucking disaster, right? Like there's some
or
stuff
it's fun.
I mean, it's quite fun. It's very fun. But like I said, my crystal ball doesn't work very well. And so this isn't a simple situation where I can look at this and be like, because you ate 3,000 calories today, I'm going to increase your squat volume from 6 sets to 7 sets, right? Like it's more complicated than that. Yeah. So what I'm going to suggest is that instead of trying to predict the future from beforehand, we're going to get to a point where we know a lot of these variables and we can take a guess. And then we have really smart ways of adapting that within a workout based on what we're measuring on the day, rather than trying to predict it in advance. So instead of going, I want you to do 7 sets of 3 at 86% or of your top single or whatever the hell, I'm going to do something more like the load management strategies that are suggested. I think in the emerging strategies framework, I think uses it a lot, where it's more like, I want you to do triples at this weight until you get a certain speed drop or a certain RPE change, or until the whatever the hell in your blood measurement changes to this value. Like that's not an unreasonable thing for us to start using in the future, right? In fact, I actually have a glucose meter in my gym bag because I was experimenting with that to see if it was useful. But as a person who's not diabetic, it turns out that it's not very useful at all. So I stopped using it. But I tried it and just to see if it would work, right? And like, I think these are the kinds of things that are going to end up being more predictive of our performance than taking like a really long-term view from the back. As an example, I used to make software to help long distance athletes train better, particularly Ironman athletes. So if you don't know, an Ironman is like a 3K swim and then a 160K bike ride and then a 42K run, right? That's your triathlon. It's long as shit. Like the world record's like, 8 hours or something. I used to make software to help Ironman athletes run that faster. And one of the things that we did was we would take lactate measurements from their blood pricks. And we would do that really often during training. Like we would do it as often as every kilometer during training and things like that. And so like that is cheap, it's fast. You can do it with a $20 device you get off Amazon with like little test strips that cost 1 cent each. You can have like 400 of them in your bag and just like test your blood lactate every so often. We could do something like that to say, hey, look, you've done enough work for today. You've got the signal that you need. But because we don't know what that signal is yet, it's really hard to tell.
That is interesting.
That's the direction I think we're more likely to head in.
That is interesting that it wouldn't be, I'm prescribing 8 sets of triples. It would be, I would like you to do triples. How many sets? I'll find out because I'm going to have you prick your finger after every set. Well, I guess we're only doing.
And when your blood lactate reaches this value 2 sets in a row, that's when I want you to stop. Or when the speed drops this amount and also your blood lactate increases by this amount, that's when I want you to stop or something like that.
Yeah. Your internal temperature rises to whatever shit. Yeah. Fuck, man.
I think in the context right now that we are in, I think that won't be possible because the amount of people that have access to a gym where, you can like have all of this stuff and you can have like early, always pretty much like you can always like control the environment is really limited. You know what I mean? I think it would need the sport to like get more professional in order for those strategies to be able to be implemented. And also a lot of people don't have that much interest for all of those variables and they wouldn't see like the benefit and they would be like, dude, like just prescribe me the number of sets and I'm not going to like tick my finger every 5 minutes to see if I have to do another set or
this is what you get
100%. But what I am saying is that these are the kinds of things that we could experiment with.
Agree.
I don't even know if these things are valuable yet. Like it might turn out that your blood lactate doesn't change enough during a session for it to make a difference. But maybe it does. And I don't know because I haven't tried it.
You make me do this for 6 months and then you're like, sorry, man. This is on me, but it actually didn't do anything. That's on me though. That's on me though. I'm like, you fucking guy. You're when did you know? I knew about 3 months ago. I actually didn't have the courage to tell you. So we
needed to
carried this on another
experiment. So I actually have rows of scars, perfectly symmetrical scars down the outside of my quads from doing muscle biopsies for to see if this kind of thing can help with training. Turns out it doesn't, but I tried it.
Right. It is. I don't know. I think to Pana's point, maybe it won't be with our sport first, but then it'd just be the same as RPE, where maybe a sport that in the Olympics, millions of dollars involved, government funding, all they do is lift or whatever the hell the sport is. And the government, like Chinese government's doing tests on athletes and they will take it to that level. And then 30 years later, like RPE came to us later on, eventually we start incorporating, maybe it's like that, but I do know what you mean, where it's like, we don't know the variables. At this point in time, we are probably not maximizing our bodies. We're just fucking, doing our best. But
we know like a handful of the variables and we can guess at another handful. Right.
To be honest, I don't think that we'll ever be at a point where we'll have all of the variables and all of the informations. I think the best thing that we'll get is the closest guess possible. And I think we'll just have to rock with that. You know what I mean?
Oh, no, sorry. What I was saying before about the unknown variables, the point is that not only do we not know them, but we will never know them. So trying to use them as inputs into an equation is a waste of time because we're never going to know what they all are. So, which isn't to say that we shouldn't try, but
I was about to say, so I'll timestamp this and we edit that part out. What's going on here?
No. That was a good point of clarification. No, good point of clarification. I'm not saying that we should attempt to figure out what those variables are. I'm saying that because it's so complicated, that instead of trying to figure out what they all are, we should find a way to measure what your performance is on the individual day and sort of loop back rather than going to the beginning and saying, look, I need you to go into this session having had 2,000 milligrams of sodium and 145 grams of carbohydrates. And,
this is essentially what you're saying is data is king. The more data you collect and then monitor, you see a pattern and you're like, that's interesting.
That's actually the premise of RTS in a way.
So go ahead, Pana.
Yeah, that's in a way the premise of RTS. Obviously, I don't want to talk about it for Mike because he's the one behind it, but that's what I loved about it. It was that it wasn't something like I have all the informations, I'm going to give everything to you. It was more that here are the principles, here are some ways of thinking about the principles, here are some possible applications, play along. So it's really that idea of there are some variables, we don't know them yet. So one, we don't know the variables. Two, we don't know how they interact with each other. So how the fuck do you want to make something really clear and something quote unquote logical and predictable 100% in advance, etc., etc. So the best thing you have, and that's actually the way I also work with myself and with my clients and so on. It's more that we try stuff, variables. We try certain variables in a certain way. We see how it goes. We see the results we get. Then we change some stuff. Then we see how it goes. We see how it gets, etc., etc. And once you've added like 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 15 blocks, 20 blocks, you have those data, you have those informations. Obviously, taking into consideration that they can change and they can vary along the way. The individual can change also, and so on and so on. But that's the way I view powerlifting programming, at least.
Yeah, where you're kind of you don't know what variables are going to matter. You're jotting things down. And then as time goes, enough people in certain places be like, I stumbled across something that seems to be a correlation. Take a look at this. You don't know what it is. And eventually, kind of like Rory gave a couple things where like, I monitored this, ended up being nothing. Well, I guess it wasn't that. But eventually somebody somewhere is going to monitor something, be like, bit of a game changer here, guys. You know what I noticed? And then we could all apply it. Until then, you don't know what you don't know, right?
Yeah.
Like it's tough. Holy smokes, man. You know how this conversation started?
I forgot.
With a bubble bath story?
It started
I think that was in the DMs.
Pana,
that one was private.
Pana strangled a man in a McDonald's bathroom. And it was and they never found his body. Did you know that that's how this started? And there's a variable that is
in the
still
famous
in play.
words of philosopher Taylor Swift, if there's no body, there's no crime. So that's fine. Even if you admit to it on a podcast.
And that is what this podcast will be called. If there's no body, there's no crime. And people are like, I'm going to have to listen to this. Out of context, this is fucking wild. And
something that I want to throw in, and maybe some people will benefit from it, but like six months ago or 8 months ago, I can't remember. I think it was more 6 months ago. I had a meet, and at the end of this meet, I was drained, like no energy, drained, zero. And my deadlift was so jack shit because of that, because I was drained. And so back then I wasn't doing SBD days, like only when I was doing mock meets, I was doing squat, bench, deadlift the same day with high RP single and stuff. And otherwise I wasn't doing it. And so 6 months ago, I was like, okay, man, like the example you gave, Ryan, with the NBA resonated in me, because NBA players are playing a fucking NBA game every other day in the week. Mm-hmm. And it's an NBA game with like an elite athletes, like that could pretty much do everything else because they're so elite, like. And I was like, okay, so if NBA players are playing NBA games every other day, then I should be able to handle an SBD day every week. And so 6 months ago, I started doing SBD sessions every week. Single in squats, single on bench, single on dead every week. And I did it for like six straight months, and I've seen so many benefits. Like right now, when I'm hitting my deads, my energy level are like so high. I don't even feel it because for me it's now routine, to hit an SBD session every week, every weekend or whatever. And so I think that practicing the sport is key for powerlifting. And whenever I started, oh sorry, my phone is ringing. And whenever I started implementing those SBD sessions, I felt like an extreme level of boost within my physical performance and also mental performance, because I know how it feels to go into deads with a single on bench, a single on squat, and having like this 2-hour, 3 hours long day before,
It's I noticed. Sorry, go ahead, Rory.
I was going to say I've seen the same thing a lot. In 2018, I was handling an athlete at nationals who I don't ordinarily coach. I was just handling him. And he was not fit enough to make it through the day. Like his training sessions were too short. They weren't intense enough. And so by the time he had a 4-hour powerlifting meet, like sort of most 2/3 of the way done, he was gassed, and we had to drop a whole bunch of his deadlift warm-ups. He couldn't warm up fast enough for the speed that the meet was going. He had 20 minutes to warm up for deadlifts, and he couldn't get it done in time. Like with the scheduled, with the scheduled warm-ups he was like, wasn't ready. We were skipping warm-ups. And like he could have prepared for that by specificity, right? Training to the conditions that a meet happens in. Other than squats, you need to be able to warm up for bench and deadlifts in under 20 minutes. You need to be able to bench after squatting, and you need to be able to deadlift after squatting and benching. And the easiest way to make sure you can do that is to fucking do it.
Well said. And that guy's name was Brett Gibbs, by the way. But no, I was going to say, to your point, I do notice I think a lot of people are getting hip to that game, because not just for a little while there, Ashton Rauskill was like, everyone's like, the Ashton Invitational every week where he's constantly doing SBD and going heavy. But I noticed a lot of people are doing this. You guys, Leah Bavois is always doing SBD as well. And her numbers are absolutely staggering what she's been doing. There's a lot of people I've noticed. And yeah, I think this is kind of that direction where, if you're going to condition yourself, there's nothing better. It's nothing going to hit it quite like being more specified towards it and doing a lot of variations. Okay. But some people are going to add variations just for the shit of doing variations.
Yeah.
And it's not going to hit the same. Yeah. So I 100% agree with you. I wanted to ask you a little bit about going into, dog. You guys realize we're getting close to 2 hours all fucking ready. Yeah. It is crazy how quickly I knew it, dude. Sometimes you tell yourself, like, I need to have somebody on, and I want to crush some time here, and I want a good podcast. And there's a few people I go to, and I know it's going to be good. And obviously, like Rory, I know we can shoot the shit for however long. But in terms of guests, like Rory's a host though. But in terms of guests, I knew, like, I have Pana on. We're just gonna go. You know what I mean? It's just gonna happen. We don't have to worry. I was like, dude, I don't necessarily even need to have specific questions, because we're gonna end ill. I'm not gonna use them. We're gonna go off. We're gonna go off wherever. But I do want to. We can't not talk about world championships coming up, because people are like, what the shit, dude? So let's talk about it a little bit. This is a stacked class. Pana, so Daniel Clements, I don't know how close of attention you've paid, but Daniel Clements hitting over 700 kilo to win the US Raw Nats, 2-time world champion, Mr. Perfect, Sergey Gladkick, coming from Russia. And I don't know if you know the whole background on him, or viewers or listeners listening. He won back-to-back world championships, and he didn't miss a single lift. As a matter of fact, he didn't get a single red light on a single lift. Literally perfection at the world level, incredibly hard to do. And I dubbed him as the commentator, Mr. Perfect. And then we also have fresh out of Sweden as well. This is eating home cooking here, because Sweden is hosting Eddie Berglund, who is a junior star moving into the open. Eddie's a phenomenal lifter. We got yourself, who can also hit obviously around 7. We got 3 or 4 lifters who can all total around 700 kilo, which we've never seen in an IPF World Championships. Absolutely stacked 66 kilo class. This might be one of the best stacked classes 1 through 5. It might be 1 through 5. You have some other battles, but 1 through 5, any one of you guys could take it. We could see a podium of 66s over 700 kilo. I'm not saying it's going to happen because when the battle's on, you're pushed. Some people can miss different lifts, but it's the potential for you top 3 at least. Daniel, you, and Sergey capable of hitting 700 and up. Well, Daniel has, Sergey has, and you hit 696, which is already fucking there. And you hit over just a stitch overweight, right? So you could go down into it if I'm not correct. Is that not right?
No. I hit it at 65 something, 65.7 or 6.
So
Like,
okay.
I was at weight.
You're at weight, and you hit 7. So there you go.
Yeah.
So all you guys have hit 700 and up, which is nuts. Are you going to do it all in the exact same day? You know, when you're trying to win, you might pull for a yield or whatever, but that's fucking phenomenal. We've never seen this before. What are your thoughts going into this?
You know, I think I will be more prepared than ever for this meet. This past year, I had like 2 or 3 meets, and actually, I think I did a meet a little above weight, and I did 707.5, and maybe that's the meet you were referring to.
That was, yeah.
So I think I learned a lot lately on myself as an athlete, and to be honest, I don't know how it's going to break down, and I don't know how it's going to happen, but I think I will hit over 700, like, with a margin, I think. Now, is Daniel Clements going to do it as well? To be honest with you, I think the biggest contenders are probably Daniel Clements and Eddie Berglund. I don't see Sergey as fierce contender as those two.
Dog, that's surprising for you to say. He's hit 700 really? Before.
Yeah, but I don't know how to say it. He's like strong on every lift, but he doesn't have that crazy lift where if on this day he's a madman, then, you know, like Daniel Clements, like he can pull like 320. If he's crazy that day. Eddie can bench like 220 if he's crazy that day. And for me, he doesn't have that quote unquote X factor that makes him that competitor where you're like, if he catches fire on his movement, then like if Eddie benches 220, 225, man, he's going to total 725 easy, like without breaking a sweat. You know what I mean? Obviously, he has to do that, but that's the way I view it. And also, same with Daniel Clements with his deadlift. Like if he's deadlifting 320, 325, like, you know, that's hard to beat. Where I don't see Sergey having that quote unquote X factor, making a lift go nuts, and his total goes up like 710 plus, 715 plus, 720 plus.
Glad kick is ultra consistent, right? Like he's going to squat something between 250 and 255.
Yeah, exactly.
He's going to bench 160 or 165, and he's going to deadlift around about 275. And it's like there's no chance that he comes in and he pulls 305 or 310 or something, right?
Yeah.
On the flip side, and that's how he became Mr. Perfect, is like he was never missing and blah, blah, blah. On the flip side, and this is when things get interesting. When a guy like that, I accustom him to like a Bryce Lewis to an extent, and there's other individuals off the top of my head. He just comes to me because at one point he was Mr. Consistency as well, where when other people are those specialists like you named. Like here's what I've seen, having commentated every session for the past half decade, is you will have that crazy big bencher, crazy big squatter, crazy big deadlifter. And they're all in the same session. So the squatter knows I need to go all out and build my total off my squat. The bencher knows I need to go all out on my last bench. The deadlifter, Daniel Clements, if you're pulling sumo and you're going all out, it's 50-50 when you get to that top end, and you got the winning pull in hand. Like it gets dicey. All of it gets dicey when it's the last, right? Sometimes each individuals get pushed and pushed hard because they know if they're going to win this with a field that deep, they go really big on that one lift that's yours. You got the big bench, you're going huge on your third bench. You got the big squat, the big whatever, right? And sometimes when other people start missing, that Mr. Consistency individual that isn't as flashy in one single, but is real even keel across the board, we've seen it where people are super hyped thinking, you know, the 83s for US Raw Nats, we could have 4 people 830 and up, and really only one guy was 830 and up, and everyone else will start missing lifts here and there. So if it can happen where that dude who's even keel across the board, 700 even wins it, and everyone else is like, shit, we thought we were going to see 725. Like, it's tough. It does happen where there's something to be said for that guy who's super consistent. Let me go right through. I might do a 705, but that might be all I need. And you might be capable of 720, but when you're towing that line of brilliance with one lift, like a Eddie Berglund bench, you can be brilliant and hit it or fucking not. Same with that deadlift. Brilliantly hit it and like, oh my God, or you're hitting it in the warm-up room after you had missed it on your third, like it happened to Daniel before. It's tough, man. That's what makes the sport so beautiful. That's what makes it like we got
I mean, Berglund bombed at last Worlds, right? For exactly that reason. What did he try to open his bench on? Like 220 and then missed it 3 times or something?
On bench of all things.
No, it wasn't that high. I think it was lower. I think it was 200 or 205. I think.
It was something he should have hit.
Yeah. But I think
you're right. It was 205.
Yeah. You know, the thing is that so I'll post it tomorrow, I think, on my SBD recap. You'll see that we just actually got the brand new Helico rack in our gym, which is completely different when you compare that to the previous ones. And so at Worlds in 2019, what happened was it was the first time this Helico rack was brought up. And when I'm not shitting you, it's like rock solid. It's like you punch in a wall, you punch into the bench, that's the same. And not only is it way harder, way stiffer, it also has a little grippy surface. And so if you want to slide in order to set yourself like Eddie does, for instance, or like myself, I do it also in a way, you can't, because the grippy surface will like pull your shirt apart like super, super hard. And also it's shorter than the previous ones. It's probably like 2-3 centimeters shorter, but it's shorter. And so if you add all of those variables in, if you have a deadlift, a bench specialist, like for instance, Eddie, and he's not used to bench on that bench, I think he's going to have troubles again. Like all of my bench sessions are going to be made on this specific bench now that we have it. All of them. And today I grinded a 175 kilo bench that I shouldn't have grinded because I wasn't able to set myself the way I used to, and so on and so on. Because last week I had like a 175, which was RP 8.5. This week I was expecting 180, and like I'm glad I loaded only 175 because like it was a 14 or 15 seconds grinder on the 175.
Dude, what is the matter with your nervous system?
I wasn't able to set, like my feet were like so usually what I do is I grip with my knees, I grip the end part of the bench, and so this way I can have my leg drive and make sure that my butt doesn't come off the bench and that my feet are stuck because I'm gripping everything with my knees. And so since this bench is shorter, I can do that. Or if I do that, I have to put myself way below the racks. And so I may end up risking hitting the racks while benching. And so this today I was like, you know, whatever, I'm not going to grip the bench with my knees. And so, you know, big mistake, because it was like my absolute grinder to this day. And it's like, I'm shaking everywhere where I usually don't shake on bench while grinding. But, you know, and I think that can play a role on Eddie's performance. And I hope he will train on this bench in order to not be surprised on the day of the meet, because like, you know, what we were saying earlier, Eddie's my competitor, he's my contender, but like he's a sweet soul and I just have nothing but love for him, and I wish him best, although I wish I beat him, and I think I will, but you know, I wish him all the best, although we're contenders.
I love how you refer to him as a sweet soul.
Yeah.
One time I swear to God this happened. Pana had a grinder, and it was such a grinder, and there was so much pressure, and he was grinding for so long that by the time he got off the bench, I shit you not, he was no longer clean shaven, full beard. That's fact. That's fact. That happened, full beard. And that, I don't know if it's the friction or what the science behind that was. The testosterone levels just through the roof and full fucking beard. It was magnificent. He's built different. That's built different.
Dude,
You know,
aged
to-
6 months and 15 seconds.
He lost 6 months of his life. No, hey, listen, there's a yin and a yang. Okay.
Please don't say that because I'm getting white hair
Yeah.
right now, and
It is.
that may be linked to that.
I think I can see it coming through in your beard there as well, man.
That's
You need to,
Dude,
But
it's
I think
sorry, go
I
ahead.
did a 10. I think I did 10 seconds grind on my squat today, 15 on bench, and it was quicker on deads. I think it was like maybe 6 seconds to complete. But last week I did a 280 single, and I grinded for 19 seconds on deadlifts.
Dude, I have to like blink 4 times to get it all in. Like I've blinked 4 times and you're still going. It's
You know,
insane.
The guys at the gym like stopped cheering me on, because it was so long, and you don't have any voice right past
Yeah,
that.
they're
and-
like, yeah, this
with the old Instagram, you would have had to cut that video in 2 to like and upload it
Yeah.
twice as 2 separate
Yeah.
bits.
yeah,
that's
yeah.
right. Part 1 and part 2. That's legit. You would have had to. That's a pretty wild thing to think of.
Yeah, and but to be honest, I really enjoy it. I'm not in any pain or whatever. It's just I just have to grind it through, and that's what I do.
Everybody's different, dude.
Yeah,
Like obviously you've put up absolutely insane numbers on the platform. It's not just like in the gym or whatever. You've already proven it on the platform. Like some of the biggest totals we see in the division's history. So it is what it is, man. You'd be a fool to try to stop it. Like if you hooked up with a coach and it's like, we want to go speed, less grinding, less blah, blah, blah. It's like, man, that's a hell of a risk for me to completely change everything I've done when I'm this close. How is this thing going to shake up?
what do you mean?
What's your prediction
Oh,
for the 66 kilo class, as well as the 63 kilo class in the women's, where your girl Leah? I want both.
if
I
you
want both.
if you want, we can also do the 47s
Let's
open
do
women.
because that's Tiffany's in there, right?
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
another. Were you coaching Tiffany previously when I last had you on?
Uh,
I can't remember.
No. She wasn't powerlifting back then.
That's
She
crazy.
just started like 1 year ago or 1 year and a half. She comes from boxing, actually,
What,
and
really?
yeah. And the thing is that I went with Leah to do a seminar in the gym that she was training in, and so she was there, all cute, writing everything down in her little notebook and stuff. And so I checked that and I was like, oh, she's really in the sport. She's interested. And so the thing is that back then she couldn't compete in boxing because she was too light. She was like 40 kilos, 40.5, so extremely light.
One sec
And-
for our North American.
Yeah,
Let me just
for-
quickly
yeah,
convert this, my man.
I think
That
it's probably
is
90
80
pounds.
88 pounds. Oh my.
Yeah, 88 pounds.
God. Okay.
Yeah, so she didn't have any competition because you have to find people around your weight class in boxing in order to have a boxing match, but she couldn't because she was 18 or 19, 18 back then, and so she was like too old and too light. And so she was powerlifting, and she had some potential because I think she hit like a 250 to 60 total, around 40 kilos body weight back then, which was like pretty decent. And so she came at the gym twice. She started working with another guy that we have at the gym, whose name is Julien. And then back then, she came to me for me to coach her like over a year ago. I think it is right now. And so we started working together, and now she's close to 400 kilos total in training.
It's insane. Okay. So for people who like anyone listening, if you're not paying attention to the 47 kilo class, Heather Connor is the 47 kilo queen, and she just hit one of the longest standing powerlifting records we got in the classic, because records fall all the time, with a 408, I believe. And Heather's the GOAT. For this lady, Tiffany, to be a teen, hasn't even filled out the 47s, only been training a year, and she's a teenager. and she's still not filling out the 47s, let alone cutting down at all. For her to be in the late 300s, pushing in on 400 is insane, man.
Yeah.
In a year, in a year's training, like her future, by the time she makes it into the open, my God, man.
Yeah. And, to link everything, at first we talked about belief. And the thing is that since Tiffany is training with us, and especially with Leah, because she looks up to Leah, for her, she's not that great. She's not strong. And I think the fact that she thinks she's not strong is actually a part of the reason why she pushed that far, that fast. Because she's like, I have to get better, because when you compare my numbers to Leah's, then I'm not good, I'm not strong. But yeah, you're 20 kilos under Leah and stuff and whatnot. But, and Leah is probably top 3 girls in the world right now. And for me, next 63 kilos GOAT, but that's another argument. But yeah, Tiffany's, she's a monster. And, I don't know if she's going to beat Heather, because Heather is probably actually like at the time we're speaking, the best in the 47s, and she has been for years now. But I think Tiffany is going to be a really great competition for her, and I really think she can beat her.
Yeah, if not now, like
if not, be really close.
Yeah, make it, at least give her like everybody an entertaining go, and Heather a go, where at least Heather's like, all right, I can't miss lifts. I'm not just going to eat food here. I got to make sure I get my lifts in. Which is all you can ask when your closest competitor is a teenager who's just been training a year. That's fucking remarkable. That's remarkable. And down the road, who knows what she's going to be capable of. And also there's a famous quote by a jiu-jitsu guy, Hickson Gracie, and someone's asking him, like, how do you get so good? And he's like, listen, and the person named all these people that he wanted to be like, and Hickson goes, if you want to be a lion, you have to start training with lions. And that's what Tiffany's doing, where she's like, no, I need to do better. I show up every fucking day, and I gotta pick it up. I can't, I'm not going home early. I seen fucking Pana grow a beard over the one rep of a bench press. You're telling me I'm not working hard enough? When I'm done squatting and I got to shave my legs again, we're good. We're getting there. We're getting close. We're getting close to peaking. That's the barometer. There's the variable, Rory. Okay. There's the variable. Okay. It's this, but
at first she wasn't really grinding a lot, and she was like, yeah, but it was too heavy. And I was like, did you look at me? Like, don't give up halfway. And she was like halfway through, and she was like, no, it's not, it's too heavy. And she was like letting go of the bar. And I was like, never let go of the bar. Like, you grind as hard as you can. And if it's not good because your butt came off the bench or the bar came down or whatever, then the refs are going to give red light. But you're not the one deciding that you have to stop mid-rep. Like, you go all in and you give it your absolute best. And if it's going through, it's going through. And if it's not, it's not. And, I think she, like you said, in a way, she's training with lions. And the thing is that she's training with unsatisfied lions, because as strong as Leah is, she's not satisfied with herself, with her lifts. And as strong as I am, that's the same for me. So Tiffany is in the same school as us, where she hits like crazy numbers pretty much every week. And she's like, that's it.
I need more.
Let's see how it goes next week,
It's funny. I mean, I totally get it, where I still remember when I first started lifting, and you don't, it sounds weird now if you're a powerlifter listening about like stopping in between reps or whatever. I remember first starting, and when you actually start fighting for some reps, or you actually just get used to a heavy weight, and you're like during the lockdown, I took a couple injuries early on, right after last Worlds, and I was like on and off for like a year, doing mostly bodybuilding, upper body stuff or whatever the hell, because torn calf, back injury, tore the calf again. It was shit for like a year. And then when I started getting back in, I was iffy with certain heavy weights. And when you started unracking certain weights, you're like, this feels heavy. And then you kind of forget, no, it feels heavy though. That's fine. It's supposed to feel heavy. Oh, I had to work mid rep. I paused. I slowed down a little bit. It's like, you almost forget though. But now when I'm knee deep in the shit, so to speak, in this crazy volume, and you have someone saying, you got to start hitting certain numbers or else. And I remember like Jason Trombley, who wrote this program, is like, I understand you got to do RPs, but I really can't stress enough. If you don't hit proper numbers enough times, you're just not going to get stronger. It doesn't matter how much volume you do. So then you start realizing heavy, it just feels, you get used to, it slows and you keep moving through it. You get used to that. You get used to, I am working now. This top triple was slower, but that's what work feels like. And if you're not used to that feeling, when you see people, when they first come into the sport, they don't know how strong they are, because when you feel that for the first time on the squat, you were like, holy shit, that was too heavy. Now you probably have so much more that you don't even know. You just haven't had to put your foot on the gas and go to this 5th, 6th gear before. You know what I mean?
I mean, a lot of people have never worked before, right? Like a lot of people come into the gym and they've fucked around. Maybe they fucked around with a team sport in high school where they sort of had to run some laps or something, and that was kind of the extent of their training. And then when you're in front of a coach who's saying like, actually you can do better than that, and I want to see you do better than that next time, and you actually have to try for the first time, like that's quite a big difference. It's quite a big change.
Yeah, like that was heavy. No, it was heavy, but it's all going to be heavy after a certain weight.
Yeah, it was 200 kilos. Like, yeah, it was heavy, but it doesn't mean you were going to fail.
You need to work through it. You need to it slowed. Keep going. Like, let's go.
when you reposted the double I did with 280, some people in the comments were like, so the guy just absolutely grinds the first rep, and he's like, I'm good for a second one. And honestly, when I did the first rep, I was like, oh, let's go. The second is going to be easy. And I think I could have done a triple with that weight that day. And I didn't post the 282 I did on Tuesday, but that was exactly the same scenario. Like the first one was slow, but I was like, okay, let's go. The second one will be okay. And I did the second one without any problem. So like you said, I think sometimes you have to be willing to work in a way, and you also have to understand that no one is going to do it for you, and that your competition is working hard. And so if you want to be the best, then you have to work like a madman, like a maniac. And that's what I do. Like, even if I get beat at Worlds, no one is going to outwork me regarding the heart and regarding the amount of work I put in the gym, Not
going to lose because you didn't do the work.
That's exactly what it is. That's where it's a lot easier to accept if someone takes a gold or whatever the heck you end up. It's not going to be easy to accept, but easier when you I did everything I could.
Yeah. Like he was the better guy. He was the better guy. That's it.
Is what it is. Execution or, what, I missed a lift, but I came fucking ready to rumble. I've no regrets. And if you had a phenomenal day, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe how good I did nonetheless, then whatever. Can hang your hat on that. So what was the predict? Did we get 2 predictions out of you? You think Leah is going to win the 63s?
Yeah.
And what are you thinking for 66s, sir? You're predicting you come in 5th? That was a joke, sir.
Yeah.
You go, you son of a bitch.
No, but to be honest with you, when I heard that Worlds were going to be in Sweden, it was like a blessing for me. I was like, man, I think it was made for me in a way, because my worst feeling and my worst memory of a powerlifting meet to this day is 2019 in Sweden. And so on that day, I think I beat more than I could chew. And I don't want to say it haunts me to this day, because none of that, but I really am not proud of myself for what I did in Sweden. So when I heard that 2021 was going to be in Sweden, I was like, the gods of powerlifting are with me, And so, I think I'm going to be first.
That's it, buddy. I fucking love somebody who comes on here and says, I'm going to be first. I had Daniel Clements on here. He's super confident as well. And I was like, what's your message to the other 66s? And he's like, when it comes to deadlifts, you better pull something out of your ass, because I'm going to have the win in my hands. And so he's uber confident. Everybody's a lion. They're all lions.
Can I respond to that, or?
Yeah, you fucking better.
Okay. I think aiming for a 350 deadlift is something cool, but maybe unrealistic.
Three.
So no, I don't know.
This guy. That's a hell of a subtotal, love. I can't wait to
You know,
see.
that's what I was, with my quote unquote, with the guy that I hate, which is also in France. Whenever we're fucking around with my friends, they're like, yeah, he's going to beat you. I'm like, yeah, is he ready to load 330, 340, 345? Then yeah, no problem. He's going to beat me if he deadlifts 345,
Yeah,
but
God.
he first has to deadlift 345.
Yeah,
So,
when it's like, I'll have the winning dead in my hands. That's gonna be
yeah,
350,
go ahead,
sir.
go ahead, love.
Go ahead, love.
I'm actually going to cheer you up, because
Yeah,
if
yeah.
you do a 350 deadlift, that's going to be insane, and
Dog,
I want to see that.
That's the best comeback for a deadlift specialist that I've heard. When they're like, I will have the winning dead in my hands, though. And you're like, good luck with, and then enter the number. That's the
Yeah.
best comeback I've heard. Yeah. Hats off to you, sir. Well played. Listen, it's we're at 2.5 hours here. I still gotta fucking, speaking of, I gotta fucking train myself, because this freaking program on is incredible. But dude, thank you very much for coming on, Pana. Like we crush over 2 hours every time, easy. When we're in Sweden, unfortunately Rory won't be able to get there because of New Zealand, but when we're in Sweden, my man, obviously good luck. I'll be calling it, but let's do a podcast live. Let's let's link up for beers afterwards. Let's do our damn thing, and let everybody know how they get a hold of you for coaching as well.
Yeah, so first, thanks a lot for having me. Really, always a pleasure. And I really can't wait to showcase something interesting at Worlds for you to be able to hype everything up properly.
You bet.
I'll do that. Don't worry, I'll do that. So they can shoot a DM on Insta, or we can also meet in the bathroom if they want.
You go,
Does
become
that cost
correct.
extra?
That's right.
Yeah.
And Rory, how about people, if we got to start doing these off the top instead of at the end of the podcast, but how do people get a hold of you as well, sir?
You can find me at Rory Lynch on Instagram, or at Sisyphus Strength, or sisyphusstrength.com.
I'll tag anyone listening to this. If you need to know any of the pronunciations or writings or anything of these gentlemen for their Instagrams, I'll tag them all in the post, and just slide into the DMs the old fashioned way. Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming on the podcast. We will all talk shortly. Good luck, man. Good luck, my friend.
Thanks a lot.
See you, fellas.
Thanks, y'all.
Yeah.